This will be for the con assignment, determine the domain of functions. All right, let's see. So remember, domain is the, I should say, possible values for x. All right, that's the definition of domain. So here we have a function, f of x, x divided by x minus 7. They want to know the domain of f. Okay? As far as I know, x can be any number except 7. Okay? Because if you plug in x equals 7, you will have 7 minus 7. Okay? And that equals 0. And you can't divide by 0. Okay? So the only number x can equal is 7. All right? And let's see. So the correct answer is all real values of x such that x does not equal 7. All right? So here they want to know, what is the domain of f? Okay? Well, we know that the square root, anything under the square root, has to be greater than or equal to 0. Anything under the square root has to be greater than or equal to 0. Okay? So this thing under the square root, negative 2x, has to be greater than or equal to 0. Okay? And if we divide both sides by negative 2, the negative 2's cancel. But remember, when you divide by a negative, you have to switch the greater than or less than symbol. So x is going to be less than or equal to, and 0 divided by negative 2 is 0. So x is less than or equal to 0. So A says all values of x such that x equals 0. B is x is not equal to 0. That's not true. C says x is less than or equal to 0. That's correct. And D is greater than or equal to 0. All right. What is the domain of H? Okay, here we just have x minus 4. So no matter what you plug in for x, you'll be able to solve it. If it's 0, if it's negative, it's positive, doesn't matter. What you plug in for x, everything will have an answer. So it's going to be E, all real values of x. All right, what is the domain of H? Okay, remember from the first problem, you can't divide by 0. Okay, so as long as x minus 5 does not equal 0, you're okay. So what would make x minus 5 equal 0? Just 5, right? So x cannot equal 5, because that would make this 0. That's the only stipulation or restriction. All right, so you can see that's answer C. X cannot equal 5. All right, and finally, the domain of G. Remember, whatever is under the square root, it has to be greater than or equal to 0. Okay, so this 8x has to be greater than or equal to 0. Okay, so if I divide both sides by 8, the 8's cancel, and I did not divide by a negative, so this stays the same. And 0 divided by 8 is just 0. So x is greater than or equal to 0. That's answer B. I'll do one more. Okay, what is the domain of f? No matter what you put in here, you'll be able to get an answer. Okay, if it's negative, 0, positive, regardless of what you put in there, it's all real numbers. So that's E. All real numbers. All right, so these are pretty easy. The square root has to be greater than or equal to 0. Whatever's under that square root. So x plus 3. X plus 3 has to be greater than or equal to 0. Subtracting 3 on both. 3 minus 3 cancels. Bring down the x, and that's going to be greater than or equal to 0 minus 3, which is negative 3. X is greater than or equal to negative 3.